Me? Okay. So I don't want to sound like a fawning teenager, but I've been reading you for the better part of 20 years. And I will say that although I'm very much aware that you are a very important voice in Israel for a part of the political spectrum, hated by another part of the political spectrum, I think that you are probably aware that for the international Jewish community, you have come to represent the voice of our moral intuitions. And I'm saying this because Israel speaks in the name of Jews very often. And it has become, at some point, it became very difficult to hear anybody emerging from the Israeli public sphere that would represent the voice of Jews that were not aligned with occupation. So I guess there is a first question that I really wanted to ask you. I mean, you came into Haaretz in 1988, I believe.
No, 82.
82.
To Haaretz in 82. I started the Twilight Zone in 88.
The Twilight Zone in 88.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, you said at some point that there was a process that
yes,
changed your view. But do you have any memory of specific events where you thought, okay, this is it? There is no going back from this thing that I just witnessed?
First of all, as you rightly say, it is a process. I can remember two events, but both of them are just a milestone. They are not, a galactic explosion. The first one was obviously when a friend offered me to come to the West Bank to see some uprooted olive trees back in 86, 87, 88, I don't remember. He was a member of parliament from Meretz, and we went together. And this was my first meeting with the occupation. And it's not like I came home and I say, from now on, that's my destiny. But this was the first seed that I remember. And then you move 30 years later, and I remember my first and second visit in South Africa, which really loaded me with more hope, with a hope for a one-state solution, obviously, leaving this hollow talkings about two-state solution, which will never happen, unfortunately. So those are two milestones that I remember. In between, it was a gradual process in which I am traveling every week to the West Bank and to Gaza, coming back, telling my story, always stories of victims of the occupation. And slowly, my political awareness is changing. Slowly, I'm separating from Zionism. Slowly, I'm courageous enough to admit it and to say it. Slowly, I separate from the two-state solution. Slowly, I realize it is apartheid. Slowly, I realize now that it is genocide.
I mean, you're the child of Sudetenland refugees, or your father at least was Sudetenland refugee. I guess most of us Jews have grown up. I mean, your generation more than mine. We're probably separated by maybe 15, 20 years, but with a lot of proximity to the story of carnage and the story of suffering. And to me, I mean, I guess I will just put it like this for the sake of contrast. To me, what I have been seeing for the last 30 years, very much some of it through your eyes, through your writing, has produced in me a very deep sense of betrayal. Is this something that to you has been a sense, because you were much more involved in the Israeli political process, you were actually relevant in the machine?
It's not so much betray as feeling cheated. Because the older I become, I realize that it all started in 48. I mean, I'm not one of those who think that Israel was so wonderful and all of a sudden it deteriorated to become this hell that it is now. There were changes. But basically, everything was there already in 48. So I feel more cheated that they never told us about 48. We were cheated about 48. And that's my main sentiment. Not so much disappointed, but cheated.
I think there are a lot of questions right now as to, I mean, I have heard you talk about this and I would like to touch on it again. There is a lot of talk about Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben-Gvir. And there is this, I think it's a hopeful idea that the moment that Netanyahu goes away, everything will be good again. Everybody will be nice. That came out with a poll about 5-6 weeks ago on the infamous 80% of the Israeli public saying that they want essentially an ethnic cleansing, and much more disturbing, 47% almost of the population thinking that the total extermination of the population would be a legitimate end. Can you give me a bit of a picture of how things look right now in Israel, especially for people like you, for people like the Bet Salem people like Alon Green and so on?
It never got so bad. And it's obviously not only Netanyahu. And this is very important to emphasize. Whenever I say it, I am always criticized that I am a Bibist. But this is the way of the Zionist left to mark Netanyahu as the Satan, to focus everything on replacing Netanyahu, as if there is a better alternative, as if the Zionist left differs so much from Netanyahu. They don't. You saw it last week when they were voting for annexation of the West Bank. Most of the alternative parties supported it. You saw it a few months ago about the recognition of a Palestinian state. Most of the parties opposed it. Netanyahu should go, and Netanyahu created a lot of damage, no doubt about it. And he brought the fascists, the ultra-fascists, into the coalition and legitimized them, which is by itself something horrible. But to think that if we just go back to the old labor, social democrats, Zionist leftists, or whatever, they started all this. Let's remember, the settlements didn't start with Likud. The settlements started with Shimon Peres and Yigal Allon and Golda Meir and Israel Galili, all labor people. Moshe Dayan, they all started it. And they supported it, and they do support it until this very moment. So to narrow the whole picture and say, oh, it's all Netanyahu, no, it's not all Netanyahu. And more than this, it's very deep-rooted among the Israeli society. That's the Israeli mindset. You just mentioned those figures from polls. It just proves to you that we have a much deeper problem than the leadership.
How ingrained would you say is this? I mean, I don't really know what you call it. I guess racism is not really the right word, because what you have when 50% of your population thinks that extermination is a viable political project, you're not really just talking about racism. What is your sense of your society, really? I mean, when you look sideways, what do you see?
I see some tiny, wonderful islands that I wouldn't replace with anyone else in the world. And I see a vast, big majority which is nationalistic, aggressive, bloodthirst, colonialistic, obviously. Many parts of them are fundamentalists and religious, as you know, with whom I have no common language. And they all came out of the closet after the 7th of October, because the 7th of October gave many Israelis the right to go so-called crazy, because, you know, after what they have done to us, we have now the right to do whatever we want. So it just put away all the barriers. It's not that racism, this terrible racism, and let's call it by its name. Many times it's neo-Nazism. I mean, when people speak about extermination, as you just said, it's not just racism. It's much worse than this. The 7th of October legitimized it for I think without any reason, but the feeling is that it is legitimization. But we cannot conclude this question without some words about the Israeli media, which is the biggest collaborator and the biggest influential factor in all this. They are responsible for most of the deterioration of the Israeli society. What they have done in this war, totally covering up what's going on in Gaza, voluntarily. Nobody told them to do so. Only not to bother the readers and the viewers. This is unforgivable. This is the big betrayal of Israeli media ever. Maybe the big betrayal of any media in history. When you do it voluntarily, not to the government, Russia and Crimea, yeah? When the Russian media has no other choice but to serve the government.
The question of the Israeli control of the flow of information has been remarkable, because not only we have seen the murder of journalists in Gaza, we have seen the prohibition from journalists entering Gaza to report, but then we have also seen people like, Arabs being systematically attacked. And then we have seen things like this guy Israel Frey that has been arrested, and so it just doesn't really seem to stop, and it's not even hidden, really, right? It's being done in broad daylight.
In broad daylight, and with a lot of enthusiasm and pride. They don't hide everything. I can tell you, I still thank God or thank fate or whatever every day that I can see Haaretz is still free and alive. I don't take it for granted forever. We are facing now part of the damage that was created after the 7th of October is also toward freedom of speech. But my main concern is not the freedom of speech, but the bias of the mainstream media, which does it voluntarily, only because of commercial considerations.
There has been a remarkable catalog of essentially genocidal statements coming out, particularly from channel, I think channel 14 and channel 12, right? Which had been remarkable. Of the kind that one would expect to see at the ICC under Radio Rwanda approach. Do you have the sense that the Israeli society as it stands and the way you describe it is a political or a social space that is capable of peace or a one-state solution or a two-state solution or reconciliation? I guess my question is, what comes afterwards in this kind of social situation?
In this kind of social situation, nothing good can come out. A transfer can come out, a pure Israel, pure Jewish between the river and the sea, extermination of many, many Arabs, not totally, but transfer the entire population of Gaza. All those things are things which might happen. It's not sure, but there are very few factors which will stop it for sure within Israel. And also the character of the Israeli regime inside Israel. I don't exclude it. Even in the next elections already, the Arabs will not have the right to vote. The Israeli Palestinians, the Israeli Arabs, the Arabs who are Israeli citizens. I don't exclude it. They are going toward this. I don't exclude that in the Israeli media, there will be some legislations that you cannot criticize the army, for example, or at least in war, you cannot criticize the army. All kinds of things which can happen now very rapidly, and there are no checks and balances which will stop it.
You said to Tim Sebastian, when he asked you what is a noble idea, and you said one vote for one person from the river to the sea, which is a line that I've been citing you on repeatedly. It's almost illegal here in Germany, so
Oh.
you can go to jail for this here.
Part of the problem. Part of the problem.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
But do you think? Are you optimistic about that project? Do you think that that's something that is at all possible?
No, I'm not optimistic about it at all. But someone has to have some kind of vision or a dream. Maybe it's totally far-fetched. Maybe it's a fantasy. Maybe it's utopia. But you need at least something to look forward and to try to put the basic infrastructure for it, to start to speak about it. And the one-state solution is the only solution which I can see bringing a real solution. Is it achievable right now? For sure not, and maybe never not. But at least I have something in my mind that I would like, because otherwise you have to give up. You have to just say, no, it will be apartheid forever, nothing can be done on it. I'm not ready for this.
How you'd been covering for a very long time, and to me, one of the most remarkable things about the West Bank, especially given the fact that now we're seeing every single day pogroms, and we're seeing every single day people getting killed, especially in the South Hebron Hills, there is no visible pushback. There is no armed pushback, which to me is quite remarkable, because we're seeing the most egregious, not only expressions of violence, but perhaps to a Western audience, one of the things that is most incredible is the impunity. It's the fact that it's smiling to the cameras and spitting at ladies and killing people. And there seems to be simply no modulating mechanism at all. Can you explain this?
You can go now, if you're a settler, you can go now to any place in the West Bank, take your gun, shoot to death some Palestinian peasants, and you know very well that nothing will happen to you, even if it will be documented in a clear video. And we have an example from this week. Nothing will happen to you. I want to pay your attention to a short dialogue which took place 2 days ago in court, when the guy who murdered the Palestinian was released and the 7 peasants were arrested. And the attorney the lawyer of the 7 Palestinians said to the court, are you aware that the one who murdered is free and those who protected themselves are going to jail now for 8 days or something? And the answer of the police was, and this really should be remembered, we are dealing here with 2 kinds of populations. Here you have the ultimate official proof for an official apartheid. There is no other way to describe it but apartheid. I was so grateful they said so. Here the Israeli police declared there is an apartheid.
Yeah.
So end to all those discussions. Is it apartheid? Is it not? South Africa was better. South Africa is worse. Israel is an apartheid state.
Let me just shift to Gaza, although I don't know if it's a shift. One of the things that somebody that has been looking at this for a while from the distance is that I have to say that by August or September of 2023, I was expecting a third intifada. Basically because I had seen the numbers for 2023 in the West Bank, but also the attacks of May in Gaza. I did not quite expect the sort of this explosion of violence. I mean, in October, the way it happened, but it seems that everything was really brewing to some degree or other. Is this? I mean, the status quo has really only become much worse, I suppose. I mean, and what has been established now, I think it's something from which there is probably no way back. And I guess this is kind of the question. I mean, maybe a very banal question, but where do you think that the thing with Gaza is moving towards, or what do you think it's coming from this? I mean, other than what the IDF is doing on the ground, right?
So first of all, concerning the West Bank, I was sure that there will be no third intifada. And I said it in real time again and again in many interviews. I was asked, because everyone said it's going to explode. I say, no, nothing's going to explode because the Palestinians lack leadership. It's a lost generation who went through the second intifada, who paid a hell of a price, neither leadership, no spirit, no organization, nothing. The West Bank in many ways is dead. At least for this generation. There will be coming another generation, but right now, and you see that even the few terrorist actions, as they call it, are by individuals, just desperate individuals who take a gun or a car, and you don't see, that's not an intifada. Now, about Gaza, it was very clear that in Gaza there was an experiment in human beings. You put 2.3 million people in a cage and let's see what develops there. And for 18 years it was silent, but who thought that it will stay silent forever? Not me. It was very clear it will explode. So it did explode in a very ugly way, obviously, but you couldn't expect something else. It couldn't go on like this forever.
Did you expect this type of security failure, total security collapse on the 7th of October? I mean, it's almost impossible to believe, really. I mean, anybody that knows anything about the Gaza envelope and the Gaza border would finds this really that the size and the magnitude and the capacity and the penetration defies really belief.
It's not hard to believe, it's impossible. A few weeks before the 7th of October, I just happened to visit the border and I saw the billions of dollars that they spent there in the underground barrier. So you can't imagine yourself what they have done there, so no tunnels will be able to cross. And no one thought that still with a motorcycle you can cross the fence above the surface. But I don't think that the real fiasco is what happened on the 7th of October in the morning. I think the real fiasco is what happened in the coming hours. This is, I mean, if the
standing down,
there was no army.
According to the guys, according to Nadav Wayman and the people I mean, that's where I got the numbers, that there were 400 IDF soldiers for the entire border.
Exactly, but can't you bring them? Can't you recruit the Air Force? There is one kibbutz near Oz where until 3:30 not one single soldier showed up. Now near Oz is 1 hour from Tel Aviv. It's not like far away in Siberia. Yeah, it's here around the corner.
How do you explain this? I mean, what is your...
For this here, I lost it because I can understand that the Israeli arrogance brought them really to be sure that technology will do all the work and you don't need soldiers, and they were totally surprised and the intelligence didn't work and nothing didn't work. Okay. But once they were inside Israel, where was the army then? For this, I don't have any explanation.
It's really quite...
You can remove the troops within 1 hour from wherever they are, from the West Bank to Gaza, it's 1 hour.
Yeah. And they were, I mean, the deployment...
Where was the Air Force? Where was the Air Force? One helicopter could stop it.
The deployment in the West Bank for the last 2 weeks, the 2 weeks before October 7th, was enormous. I think... So I think that there is an emerging consensus. I don't know if it's emerging or it's been there for a very long time now, for almost 2 years, that now we're talking, I guess, openly about the fact that it is a genocide. And we've been talking for at least 2 years of the fact that there were plenty of signs and evidence that there was a coming genocide. And of course, the duty was to prevent. I like to tell people punishing is a failure of the process, because what we're trying to do is not to bury the people. It's do you think that there is how do you think Israeli society, and maybe it's not fair to ask you about Judaism, but how do you think that this defines or redefines Israeli identity? I mean, we're talking about, I guess, from my naive perspective, a lot of what I see, because I have young children, is my worst, really the worst of the worst of the worst of my terrors are nightmares happening in the screen in front of me every single day for 2 years. So there is something about it, which is the sense that, these people, there is a monstrosity. There is something that almost belongs to the order of demonic evil or metaphysical. I cannot place these things among my fellow human beings, so to say. What does that do to the sense of Israeli democracy, Israeli society,
Israeli identity? Above all, Israeli identity.
Israeli identity.
I mean, to sit here in Tel Aviv and to realize that my people, my state, my army is committing a genocide, not less than this. 1 hour away from the places we are talking now, it's not something very easy to digest. To think that the sons of my friends and the friends of my sons are committing all this is horrifying. But I'm not surprised, because the ideological infrastructure was there for a long time. I would like to elaborate in 2 sentences.
Yeah, of course.
There are 2 or 3 values which shape the Israeli mindset. First of all, that we are the chosen people. It's very deep-rooted. I don't have to elaborate on this. I guess you and your viewers know what I'm talking about, but we know better, and we are better, and the world cannot teach us anything. The second is that we are the ultimate victims of humankind, and therefore, and the only victims, because we don't tend to see anyone else as a victim. We are the victims, and the only victims in the world. And therefore, we have the right to do whatever we want after the Holocaust, which was obviously the biggest catastrophe in history, but not the only one, for God's sake. Take those 2, add to this ongoing process of dehumanizing the Palestinians and demonizing them. Decades of dehumanizing them, yeah? Again, you can write whole thesis about it. We'll do it, I just mention it, but I'm with it for a long time. I'm witnessing this dehumanization of the Palestinians. It has many expressions, but it's very deep-rooted. So the infrastructure is there. If you dehumanize, if you believe that you are the chosen people, if you believe you have the right to do whatever you want, here you see the outcome.
I live in Germany, as I told you. I live in Berlin, and my father, when he was alive, came here in 2012, and walk around and ask me why Germany? How can you live in Germany? And I because I'd been reading you, I mean, one of the questions that every time I see your articles comes back to me is why do you stay? Why do you stay in Israel? I mean, you talk about islands of wonder,
yes,
but in a context in which you just described friends of, the children of your friends and the friends of your children, your taxes, obviously, your participation.
Having said all this, I didn't even consider for one moment in my entire life to leave Israel. Even not for a moment. First of all, I never left, but it's not only that I never left, I never considered it.
Why?
Because this is my place. Because I'm very attached to this place. Not to speak only about the language and the culture and the memories and the friends and the family. And no, I feel that that's my place. And if I consider myself seriously as someone who have some kind of who is struggling about something, then the only place to struggle is here for me. It's out of the question that I will struggle from the outside. Once I will leave, if I would have left, I would put everything behind me and wouldn't care about this place. But as long as I'm here, I'm caring, and as long as I'm caring, I'm struggling. So it's really not an option. I don't even know how to express it. How off the table. I'm married to a non-Jewish Swedish woman in the last 18. I mean, we are 18 years together. We met in Gaza. I could easily move to Sweden. Easily, we are married. Nothing easier than this. No way. And Sweden is a wonderful place. No way.
Do you ever feel in danger? Do you feel that your work, but you yourself, could be in danger living in a society that is so adverse to the voice that you have and the positions you express?
So here I'm surprised with something happened in the last years, in which I don't feel danger anymore. In 2014, I had bodyguards because it was really hard for me to go out. Something happened that I don't know even to explain it. It's contradicting to everything else, but there is some kind of apathy. So look, I'm banned from Israeli TV, so I'm less exposed. They invited me maybe twice ever since the war started. I used to be often on Israeli TV, so I'm not there. But still, I guess I'm quite known. I don't know to explain it, but there is some kind of apathy, which wasn't the case in 2014 when it was really, really dangerous for me to go out. I don't feel any danger. The only two dangers that I still feel, obviously, is when I go to the occupied territories, and I go to the West Bank every week, as you know, and there's a danger there both from the soldiers and the settlers. It's becoming more and more dangerous. And the second fear of mine is that Israel will shut my mouth and Haaretz's mouth up. It's not a far-fetched idea. It can happen within months with this government.
Gideon, I really enormously appreciate your time, your candor, and I really have almost 20 years of reading to thank you for. I'm not going to do it here.
Okay.
But it's really enormous appreciation because, in a way, I mean, I think that, the people that stand on that side don't understand that for the reader with certain moral intuitions, it's a way not to feel alone. It's a way to feel that, we are not crazy. What we feel is something that is consistent with reality. So I'm grateful for that. And if there is time, I will hopefully bother you again at some point.
With pleasure. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend.
Same for you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.